part of our early years, getting ready for Gimel Tammuz and Sichas on his kashrus. So there's this role already holding Shabbos Shlach this week in Parshas but we'll do a few days a week, and by the end of next week, whereas Hashem, we should finish the Sicha. Bring up the text. Tomorrow we'll be going back to the mimer we started yesterday, so we'll kind of switch back and forth. Shabbos Parshas Shlach Mevorchim Tammuz Tavshin Yud. So this is before Tavshin Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud Aleph. So before the Rebbe officially accepted Nesius, which means the Farbrengens were very much iskashrus based, staying connected to Rebbe. The Rebbe was talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe. We could, of course, apply all this to our Rebbe post Gimel Tammuz. Parshas Shavua, the Parsha of Shlach Mevorchim, talks about Shlichus Amaraglim, the Meraglim's mission to check Eretz Yisrael. Moshe sent him to spy out the land of Canaan. So they went and they checked. They came back from their mission. And they gave over a davar, an idea. And they said, etc. And we all know how that story goes. When they tell over their mission, what they saw, the Torah says, Vayas Kalev. Kalev silenced the people. But they only give over the report before Kalev silenced them. Only after Kalev silenced them do they give over their opinion on the report, which is that we can't go to Eretz Yisrael. Like Rashi says, even Hashem Lahavdil can't take the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael. I believe the Sicha is from an edited Sicha for the first few chapters. The Tzarech Lahavim, the Rebbe asked the question, why did he silence them? Up until that point, by the point that Kalev silenced them, they were giving over a report, and the report was honest. With Moshe's questions with regard to their mission. Moshe, in the beginning of the mission, sets forth their objective, which is to check two things. To see how the people are. Are they strong or are they weak? And on that question they answered, they're strong. Live in the land. And very fortified cities. So there's no Moshe gives them a mission and they respond to the mission. The second mission, Moshe, a second part of the mission was about the land itself. Is it a good land? Is it a fat land or a dry land, a thin land, a land that's not going to give off good growth? And the answer is period. It's a land flowing with milk and honey, like Moshe said, and these are the fruit. So why is he silencing? Why is Kalev silencing the spies at this point? Because Moshe sent them as spies to spy out the land. They were obligated to fulfill their mission, to respond to all the questions that Moshe asks. Like we learn many times, Moshe didn't have to send the spies. Like we're learning in the Mimer, Moshe had no obligation to send the spies. Send if you want to. It's on you. It's according to your own understanding. I'm not commanding you to send spies. If you want, send. But once Moshe sends the spies, they had to give over and respond to what Moshe sends them. Again, next year, Tafshin Aleph, we're learning the Mimer, we're learning the Sicha on that as well, which kind of focuses on what Moshe was trying to achieve with the checking. Over here, we're trying to figure out differently why is Kalev silencing them? Gave them a mission. Moshe didn't have to send them. Once Moshe sends them, they have a mission. Their mission was to find out two things: how is the land, and how are the people? Are the people strong or weak? Is the land Kashmena, Raza? So the answer, the people are strong, and the answer, the land is Avos Chol Dvash, and this is the fruit. Because they had to respond and tell the truth. It's about the land and the people. Why does he silence them? Why does Kalev silence them at this point of the conversation? You want to say that he would silence them after they start saying to Moshe that we can't go in and this is a land and it's too strong and God can't get us in and all that. Okay, that's one thing. Here, at the point where Kalev silencing them right now, there's nothing to silence them about. They answered the truth. And they answered the truth. He silenced them, and then they go on to give their opinion. But before their opinion, they said what they had to say. Even after they say what their opinion, they still didn't. It's not that they were lying what they said. Their conclusion of what they said was that we can't go into the land. But the actual report itself was an honest report. And another thing we have to understand. We find about Kalev is another thing, like we learn in the parsha. It says that he went to Hebron. So then Rashi points out, not all the spies went to Hebron. Kalev himself went there. And he went to Daven to pray. By our forefathers, why? He shouldn't fall under pressure of his colleagues to be part of their scheme, which is to push the hearts of the Jewish people away from trying to go there. The Rebbe asks, I'm not going to go into the question why Dafki he went. He went because he didn't want to be part of it. The Rebbe asks, why did he have to daven separately? If Moshe is sending them, he should have been able to take the energy from Moshe sending him as enough to be faithful to the mission according to what Moshe wants. Why does he have to go and daven a special davening by the Kibriyavis, by the forefathers? So the answer to all this like this. And this is there again, with the Rebbe, this is a skashrus here. So we're going to focus, and obviously this is a very skashrus parasha of Shlach. Moshe sends Shluchim. And 10 out of the 12 come back with not just a negative report, with a negative agenda. That means that, again, the report was honest, but the agenda, what they wanted to push with the report, right? We live in a times today the same way of, it's not, what am I saying? I'm saying the truth. It's not about what you're saying. Why are you saying what you're saying? What's behind it? How are you manipulating the truth? What's your agenda here? The Rebbe said this, the sin of the Meraglim was, they mixed in their own intellect, their own conclusions. And where do we see the first deviation? It's a very fine point where they deviate from the mission, is how they change things. What's the change? The first thing Moshe says is check the people. Are they strong or the weak? And is the land fat or raza or dry? Raza means really skinny, but obviously it don't mean skinny. It means it's not a healthy land. When they report back differently. It seems like a small difference. Moshe says to check the land, then check the people, and then check the land. The answer about the land first, and then the answer about the people. Okay, what's the difference? Moshe, like we said before, Moshe gave them 2 jobs, 2 missions, 2 parts of the mission. One was to check on the people, one was to check on the land. So Moshe starts with the people and ends with the land. They went with the land first and then the people. There's a huge difference. And in the difference is because they had an agenda. What was the mission of Moshe? The first thing to check is about the battle and the conquering of the land. Are they strong or are they weak? Only afterwards are we going to talk about the reward. Is it fat or is it skinny? This is so important. This is mamish what we're living in now, on all levels, in the politics and in our own life. The ikar is, the Rebbe says, is that the ikar is to conquer the land. And is the question, is the reward worth the effort? That's secondary. We don't first check to say, okay, 1 second, we're going to war, why are we going to war? What's in it for us? What's in it for this country? What are we going to get out of it? So then they have to see if it's worth it to go to war. Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, we're first going to war. And then we're going to talk about what the reward is. But only after we talk about the war, who is our enemy? How are they? Are they strong? Are they weak? And then we're going to see about the land. What are we fighting for? Moshe's job was to conquer the land. That's the number one thing he has to check. Not what's in it for me. All right, apply that to your day-to-day life, right? You have to go out there and struggle in life. Yiddishkeit, Torah mitzvahs, get up in the morning, davening 3 times a day, keeping kosher, Shabbos. That's what Hashem wants. And then you can ask yourself, what's in it for me? What's the reward? But to say, before I want to do, what did you say, Nasiv Nishma? First we're going to do, then we're going to listen, then we're going to figure out what's in it for me, if you want to have that conversation. And not only that, Moshe doesn't say first, even in the wording of checking the people, he first says, are they strong and are they weak? Because we're not concerned if they're strong. We just want to know what we're dealing with. Not to say weak first, because that's what we're hoping for. And then if we have no choice, they're strong. How strong are they? We want to know if they're strong. And if they're weak, if it's weak, it makes it easier. Because we're going to conquer the land either way. We're not going to change it if they're strong. We just need to know the information. Even if we're going to need a big war. And therefore, we're going with intention that they're strong. Nobody said they were weak. Just we want to know. And if they're strong, we're going to go there. We're going to fight. If they happen to be weak, maybe we'll change a bit of the strategy of how we're going to battle. But it's nothing to do with the bottom line of the battle. This is another thing. That if you go with the mindset that they're strong, that itself weakens them. When you go with when you're not intimidated by their strength, that itself weakens them. And again, we see that today. But Meraglim, Shino is a Seder. The Meraglim turned everything around. Number one is Amru Kafisha to Kabbalas Ol, how they viewed it. They were given an mission. So the first thing, this is what Kalev right away identifies. The Rebbe is getting to why Kalev silenced them, because he immediately identified what their agenda was. By the very fact, the fine point that they changed. They first talked about the reward. Is it worth it? What are we fighting for? As opposed to, we're going to fight, and then we're going to check out what we're getting. Raglim Shunas to say that they changed that small, seemingly small, insignificant detail. They looked at it, how they understood it. This is hard. What do we do? First, he spoke about the reward. What are we talking about? So, yes, it's a land of flowing milk and honey. But only afterwards, that they're very strong. For them, the most important thing was, what are we fighting for? The reward. To get reward. And if the reward makes sense, then we could start deciding if it's worth fighting for. What kind of battle we have to. Then you could say, okay, if it's easy to conquer, then the reward is worth an easy fight. But a hard fight, maybe I'm not ready to do for such a reward. But a hard reward, we're not interested. And therefore, when you change it, it's about how you view it. Then you can make a mistake. And it's too hard. If it's too hard to accomplish, based on the fact that it's old, the foundation is a logical approach to the whole thing. Eretz Yisrael. Is it worth it? And then how hard is the fight? You're making cheshbainis. The whole point is cheshbainis. Moshe didn't ask them for their own opinions. He asked them for information. And by pointing out that the first thing we're going to talk about is the war, and then we can talk about the reward, is because we're not asking about an opinion if we should or shouldn't, just how we're going to do. If we know that they're strong, then maybe we'll take a different approach, but no one's stopping the war. And therefore they said we can't do it. Because even if the reward is so great, the people are too strong, but because fundamentally they went after logical Hanaka approach. When Kalev saw this deviation, starting with the land, is the land worth it? Yes, this is a Eretz Yisrael called Vash. Look at the size of the fruit. What we're dealing with. It's not a regular place. And with that irregularity is also the people there. They're giants and they're too hard. The job is too hard. They're mixing in their seichel. He right away saw what's going on. He right away smelled the rat. I feel when you get to say that, they say, whoa, be quiet. And this is why Caleb had to go to the forefathers. Not to fall victim to their scheme. When Moshe sends you, when you go with the koyach, the strength of the sender, Moshe Rabbeinu, being sent on a mission, you have koyachas to fulfill the mission, but not to mix your own agenda into the mission. That's part of your avodah. It's not a guaranteed thing that you're not going to mess things up. When you're trying to mix in your own things, God gives you bechira. You want to put in your own. The shlich itself is not going to stop you from messing it up. And we see that again at Hayom. That's his avoid or her avoid, to take the mission and not mess it up and not mix in your own seichel and try to say, I'm going to tell Moshe better what he should be doing. It's your job. The avoid of the Shliach is to nullify your seichel and to stay to the mission of the Mishalech. And for that, he needed to daven by the kibri obvious that he should be strong and be mekusher to Moshe. To give yourself over to the sender, Moshe Rabbeinu to do the mission without mixing in your own agenda and your own, but what makes sense to you and how you see it. Again, like we said, we learned in the Sicha before about Shlichus. It's not that the onav is not a person who says I can't do anything. He never wants you to use all your koiches, all your talents. But fundamentally, nafshi kavod kol is all about the Kabbalas Ol, and not to try to change and deviate and mix things up in the Shlichus of Moshe because you have a separate agenda that the Shlichus doesn't work for you. Yes, surely he had to go to the daven by the forefathers. What's it mean to daven by a kever avos? Like a person who's lying down. Say the Frierdiker Rebbe, lie down when you went to Rashbi, to Miran, where your head and your body is equal, not that your head is higher than your body, where your mind overrides your mind is thinking too much and that guides you. The malus in a positive way, not that you're like an animal, but like in a way that you have Kabbalas Ol. That you reach beyond logic. You don't have to understand the why, you have to understand the what. And this protected by davening by the others, not to fall victim to their scheme. Without mixing in his own agenda. With true Kabbalas Ol, that's what the Kali was able to achieve. What's the lesson to us Chassidim? You do what's known. There's an extension of Moshe in every generation, and that's the Rebbe of every generation, the Nasi Ador. It's brought down. There is no generation that doesn't have the Moshe Rabbeinu of this generation. The Rebbe says in our generation, it's my father, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and obviously this applies to the Rebbe going forward. Moving from this is understood. When the Rebbe sends you on a mission, that he sent, is sending, and will send. The Rebbe is still, anyone who's going out to the Shlichus or anyone who's taking with the Rebbe's mission is a Shliach of the Rebbe. As plainly this individual in Makal Mesuyim to a certain place, Levarach Elkei B'Olam, to go and find the places that you have to engage in the world. That's the kibush, that's the mission you've been sent by Moshe Rabbeinu, conquering your space. Doesn't mean you have to pick up on a plane or a truck. It could be your spaces in your house where you're right now, but it's a pivot, knowing that your mission, your life is kibush haaretz, conquer your space. And you're in Shlichus of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rebbe of our generation, to do that. Ki toichen ha-shlichus the Moshe b'kibush haaretz hu la'asoisei Eretz Yisrael ha-mukdesh l'kol ha'artzos. The point of conquering the land is to make the sanctification of the land, making this machta Eretz Yisrael, making Eretz Yisrael. So too, just like Moshe then sent the Jewish people to turn Eretz Canaan into Eretz Yisrael, to Eretz Kodesh, so too every person that's in the Shlichus of the Rebbe and every Chassid is to make your chelik in the Eilam Eretz Kodesh, Eretz Yisrael. The places that a person was sent by the Rebbe and given the strength to be mevar, to elevate it. To make it Eretz Yisrael, like it says, to make something that's mundane according to the standard of holiness, right? They're talking about chulin. A person eats chulin, even though a person could eat chulin, they don't have to eat out Taras HaKodesh, but eat it, not just truma. Taras HaKodesh is a much higher level of stringency and kedusha. What's our lesson? On the Shlichus of the Rebbe. Don't deviate, don't mix in your own agenda, your own the way you see it. But even just to change from looking at the schar before you look at the machama, looking at the reward before you look at the fight. Is this fight worth it? Even if you think that if I change the direction of the way the Rebbe wanted, the way the level, how the Rebbe wanted me to do it. It means the Rebbe told me to look first at this. Now I'm going to change the Seder. I'm going to be more matzliach. It's better. I'm polishing it. I'm making it better. Once you make one change, you could spiral into a situation, you're going to turn into a situation of the Meraglim. The Meraglim, that the Torah testifies about. They were good people, they were leaders. When they changed, what Moshe told them to do, to first check their word and then check their schar. They came to the conclusion, once they mix their own seichel, you don't see it from Moshe's perspective, like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. In the Kutei Torah, that it's like the ship. You have the captain. You have in those days the people on the ship rowing. A rower has to row. Right, left. You don't see the destination, but the captain standing sees everything. Moshe sees it the way he sees it. Don't try to change what Moshe sees, or say that Moshe is not seeing it right, or you see it better. Chas v'shalom. Maham Radim Shamar Aleim Kulam Menashim Rashi Bnei Yisrael Hema Kishashinu Midivrei Moshe. Bali Tais Achar Malei Nuchal Al. It came to this. They fell so low. But they felt we can't even do this mission. We can't go into Israel. So the Rebbe said, "Nashrim Karkenu, we're not Anshe Shem necessarily. Allah even more so. We have to be careful. We could divrei one more sif. Finish the sif actually. We could divrei Kvoktish Maracham Yadmer, as the Frierdiker Rebbe said, Pishma Merazal, about. But Chazal teaches that the Yetzer Hara works slowly on a person. First he tells you to do one thing, and then another thing, until he tells you to do avoid the zara. The Yetzer Hara is known as the wise one, the clever one. He never takes a person right away and says, go eat a cheeseburger, go eat a doner. If he goes too extreme, you're never going to listen to the Yetzer Hara. He's very clever. He knows how to work a person. First, he tells you, do certain things that are even positive. And you do certain mitzvahs, Yetzer Hara attacks you and says, wow, that's so good. You did a great mitzvah. I agree you should do this mitzvah. So now he becomes a de'ezaver. He becomes a person that you listen to. The Yetzer Hara is himself encouraging you to do mitzvahs. The next thing he encourages you, but maybe do a little change here, change there. When you start listening to the Yetzer Hara, he's smart. Maybe I'm going to listen to the Yetzer Hara. He wants me to do mitzvahs. In the beginning, he says to do a mitzvah, but he's just telling you how to do the mitzvah. He has good ideas. Once he gets a grip and he mixes in, then he gets, next thing you know, you're going to be serving God forbid or not. The number one condition is Shmiras Divrei Harav. Listen to what the Rebbe said and how he said to do it. Don't make any changes, don't deviate, don't mix in your own mind. The foundation is Kabbalas Ol. Of course, on top of that, you use all your talents to get the job done, but not to question the derech and how it's going to be done, mixing in your agenda, because it starts off with a good intention and it ends up like this, like the spies, where the next thing they know, they're saying this, we can't go to the land. All right, so we're going to stop over here. This is mid Sicha. We'll finish the Sicha from on Hashem in a few days. I'll post the date.